Isaiah Thomas did not have an easy road to the NBA. He was constantly overlooked and never taken seriously, as he only stood at a meagre 5'9". And for this video, I'm going to go right back to before Isaiah was even in the NBA, and I'm talking about his college days. At the college basketball level, he played for the Washington Huskies in the Pacific 10 Conference. The other notable colleges in this region are Arizona, UCLA, and Southern California. And historically, Washington is probably fourth best in this region. He was the standout player while he was there, averaging 16.4 points a game, 4 assists, and 3.5 rebounds per game. But his most memorable college moment is this buzzer beater in overtime against Arizona. And I'm just going to let you watch this clip just in its entirety, as it's one of the best buzzer beaters in basketball history.
And we're tied 75 again. Isaiah, shot clock turned off. Game clock at 8. He's going to do it himself. Thomas, shake, crossover, step back. At the buzzer, Young, safe, and Washington wins it on a last-second J. Cole.
Come draft night, Isaiah had very little attention on him, and he was unsure if he would even be drafted at all. While Kyrie Irving was flooded with reporters on draft night, only one reporter spoke to Isaiah, and this has now become a very famous photo for him. The Kings selected him with their 60th and final pick of the draft, and he shocked everyone in his rookie season. He went on to average the 4th most points on his team while playing significantly less minutes than them. Although the Kings were one of the worst teams in the league that season, Isaiah had proven that he's one of the best scorers in his draft class, and he was named on the all-rookie team along with Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, Kawhi Leonard, and a few other stars. For his next 2 seasons on the Kings, he continued to develop as a player, but it wasn't until he was on the Celtics that his career really took off. And on February 19, 2015, Isaiah Thomas was traded to the Boston Celtics from the Phoenix Suns, where unfortunately he was back to being a bench player. For his 21 remaining games in the season though, he averaged 19 points a game on just 26 minutes of playing time. So when next season came around, Brad Stevens made Isaiah a starter. And as we all know, the next season Isaiah was insane. He stood out as one of the best guards in the league and averaged 22 points a game and 6.2 assists a game. He was deservedly an all-star and brought so much life to Boston. Most fans had Thomas jerseys and people tuned in to see a 5'9" player tear apart defences on a nightly basis. Although he was a huge liability on defense, he was one of the best players in the league at driving to the basket, and he'd mastered how to drive against taller players and avoid getting blocked. And he had one of the best hesitation moves in the league and was able to freeze defenders over and over and over again. The season after this was the same story, except Isaiah improved even more. He averaged even more points and was just as deadly on offense. But everything changed when he injured his hip against the Timberwolves. It started off as a normal injury and wasn't of any significance. And there was no pinpoint play throughout this game where it occurred, so I think his hip has just slowly got worse over time. And it was mid-March when he was first sidelined, and with the playoffs just around the corner, the Celtics didn't want to be without their star Isaiah. So he was cleared to play right before the playoffs started, and was okay up until the East Conference Finals, in which they faced the Cavaliers. However, Isaiah had injured himself in Game 2 against the Cavs, and unfortunately he didn't return. As we all know, Isaiah was then later traded to the Cavs for Kyrie Irving, and the owner Danny Ainge said that the injury had somewhat to do with Isaiah being traded. But this is where the story gets very, very interesting. Isaiah said that he did not feel healthy and fit enough to play, but it was the Celtics medical staff that said he was okay to play and that he was good to go. So Isaiah didn't even want to play as he knew he wasn't healthy enough, but the owner signed off on it and the medical staff said he was good to go. And this is why Isaiah was so annoyed at Danny Ainge, and he said he would never speak to him again. If Isaiah had not been forced to play in the playoffs, perhaps he would have recovered from his injury and then never been traded from the Celtics. Or even if he was traded, he could have played just as well on the Cavs as he did on the Celtics. But unfortunately, the truth is that so far he has yet to play anything like he did when he was on the Celtics. But there are a lot of reasons as to why Isaiah will make a comeback this season. At this point in time, it's most likely that the Wizards will re-sign Isaiah, but more importantly, Isaiah has said that he finally feels like himself again. There's no more pain, I've got my full range of motion. For 3 years, I was trying to play the best players in the world on one leg. I'm able to cut and move and stop, able to cut and go. I feel like I'm 31 years old again, and now I have scientific evidence to show that. Isaiah firmly believes he is back to his full fitness, and it's only a matter of time until he's back to his Celtics days, right? Well, not necessarily. We mustn't get ahead of ourselves, as Isaiah has missed years of game time and even at full health he'll be quite rusty. As well as this, it's unlikely he'll start for the Wizards as they have John Wall and Bradley Beal as their starting guards. But that's not to say he won't have a role coming off the bench for them though. Isaiah has shown that in the fourth quarter he can be one of the most clutch players in the league. Most people will have forgotten this, but there was a time when he was known as Mr. Fourth Quarter, and for good reason. In the first half of the 2016-17 season, he averaged just over 10 fourth quarter points per game and was the deadliest player in the NBA when it came to scoring in the fourth quarter. So for this season, I hope Isaiah proves that he is still the scorer he once was. He'll primarily come off the bench, but he can show what level he is this season, and the next season have a more prominent role on a team. And if there is any NBA player that I believe can make a comeback, then it's Mr. Fourth Quarter himself, Isaiah Thomas. And obviously most NBA fans will have just completely forgotten about Isaiah Thomas now. But I want to know if any of you think that Isaiah will be able to make a comeback this season and eventually get back to being an all-star level, or possibly even back to his Boston Celtics days. And so as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on my next video.